skydiving. This is amazing.
Yeah, but you know what else is amazing? An iPhone 6S for just $49 at Metro.
Really?
Imagine streaming all the way down with that amazing camera. I'm switching.
That's smart.
You know what else is smart? Parachutes.
Switch to Metro and get an amazing iPhone 6S for only $49. Metro by T-Mobile. Phone offer requires port-in of number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Hello, everyone, everywhere. This is Bob Thibodeau with the Kingdom Crossroads podcast, and you are listening to Life Transformation Radio with my good friend Sean Douglas. Be sure to subscribe to his podcast so you will not miss any of the upcoming episodes, and be blessed in all that you do.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 66 countries, such as the United States, Belgium, Sweden, Norway, Canada, Mexico. So I want to thank you to those who are listening from wherever you are. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here is where we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that has changed our lives and how we use this to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on Blog Talk Radio Network at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook community, Life Transformation Radio Community. I ask that you subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you're comfortable listening to podcasts, such as the iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, Castbox, and the Google Play Music app. On the show are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, amazing people who are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show, this is a live radio show, so you can call in at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. So, without further ado, please help me welcome my guest, Jay Gabrani. What's up, my friend?
How are you, Sean? Great to be with you.
Man, I am so pumped to have you on the show. We met at an event called New Media Summit.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, man, your story is absolutely powerful and incredible.
Well,
and I am just
absolutely
much honored to have you on the show.
I really appreciate that. Look forward to sharing with your audience.
Yeah, so I mean, you pretty much like wowed everybody, So for those that don't know, New Media Summit is coming up in Tampa, Florida, February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And New Media Summit is where 40 podcasters, including myself, 40 podcasters, icons of influence, come to the stage and we share our best stuff, and then the attendees get to pitch us. And when I heard Jay's pitch to get on the podcast, I was immediately like, no flipping way am I not having this dude on my show. Like, he has to be on my show, man. So here we are, and I love what you're doing. You know, I got more backstory after everything was said and done, and I can't wait for the listeners to get some value and really dive in to what you're doing, man. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Oh, thanks very much, Sean. Yeah, I went to that summit thinking that the message has to get out there. So I do thank you for inviting me on the show.
Absolutely. You're welcome. So the title of today's episode is Empowering and Preparing Fathers with Jay Gabrani. After his first child was born in 2005, Jay jumped into the world of real estate investing. Overcoming many challenges, he built a 7-figure real estate portfolio. That portfolio helped take a multi-year sabbatical to deal with the heartbreaking personal tragedy when his wife passed away in 2014. Before his wife passed away, Jay thought he was financially prepared. After going through the experience of being the executor of his wife's estate, he realized he wasn't. Today, Jay makes an impact raising his 3 children and empowering fathers to secure their family's financial future as the founder of Prepared Fathers. The Facebook link right there is facebook.com/preparedfathers, and his website is www.preparedfathers.com. So I know this is going to go kind of deep. It's going to touch on some heartstrings a little bit.
Sure.
But what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, Sean, it's a great question, and basically the reason's quite simple. You just mentioned it in the bio. I went through a pretty difficult time in 2014 when my wife, who was only 42 at the time, passed away, and my children were 5, 7, and 9. So basically, I took what it turned out to be a 4-year sabbatical, and during that time, did a lot of reflecting, did a lot of readjusting. Life basically completely changed. And I came out of it kind of on the other side saying I wanted to help fathers be financially prepared for any and all of life's curveballs. Because I thought that if I could help fathers, then that means I'm helping their families. And if I can help family on top of family be financially prepared for these types of things, then that's a good legacy to leave, and it's a good way to teach my children. So that's the main why. The main why is I wanted to show my kids that you can overcome adversity, that the challenges will come at you in life. But then at the end of the day, it's all about teaching them that if you help people and that you can take things which happen in your life which maybe were negative, and you can somehow turn those things into something positive, then you're living a successful life. And that has nothing to do with how much money you have. That's simply what you're doing every day. So that's my why. It's for them, and it's for the other fathers and families that I can help out there.
I love it. Have you come in contact with anybody that kind of shared the same moment, like they lost somebody and then they weren't financially prepared, and then they found out that there was ways to become financially prepared? Anybody with similar stories?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, just to give you a little background, I was trained and educated as a professional accountant in university. I have been a lifelong entrepreneur. I'm 47 now, so I've been an entrepreneur since I was 25, and I've been I'm a pretty seasoned and experienced real estate investor. So let's just say that, when it comes to a situation where you're financially prepared, I thought I was actually in pretty reasonable shape in case something happened. But like you mentioned in the bio, when I did go through the whole experience of, being an executor of our estate, on top of dealing with all of the emotional stuff of losing your spouse, there was a lot of challenges I had. So have I met people who've been in the same boat and same situation of losing a spouse, perhaps losing a child or something like that? Most certainly. But when it comes to the whole thing of being prepared for it, let's just say that is not, there's not too many folks which I've come across who would have been prepared for something like that in their early 40s. So, that's why I come on to podcast, because I want to share that message. And hopefully maybe someone who hasn't yet faced a major curveball in life, they can take some steps towards getting financially prepared. Because you know what, Sean, we're all going to deal with certain pain in life. But I'd like it so that, the pain is inevitable, but maybe the suffering can be reduced. So that's the way I look at it. So not quite. I haven't met as many people, but I've certainly met a lot of people who've gone through heartbreak and tragedy, 100%.
Right. Yeah, and it's one thing to go through that, but then we hear the stats that most people aren't even prepared for retirement. So now you compound what you're already dealing with and compound it with, now I have to worry about finances, which is the number one worry of most Americans anyways.
Yes.
And it's just a recipe for disaster.
Unfortunately, it is. Yes.
So let's go through that. And whatever you're comfortable sharing, you know, walk us through that. You know, you're married, you got a couple of kids, and then tragedy happens. You know, take it from there. You know, what did you go through? What does someone do in that scenario?
Okay, so to give your audience a little context, so got married 2004 and had 3 children pretty quickly, 2005, 2007, 2009. So let's just say life was pretty busy at home, and my household was what we'll call kind of a traditional one. I, as the father and husband, was busy on the outside, entrepreneurship, real estate investing, dealing with all of that cycle, whereas my wife was super busy dealing with the whole home, kids, domestic cycle. And we were actually going quite well. Everything was fine, even though there was 3 young kids at home. It was obviously very busy. But I want to take you back to 2011. My wife, unfortunately, she had just a simple slip and fall where she wrenched her back, and she went to the doctor the next day. And the doctor prescribed her what we'll call Oxycontins, some painkillers. I don't know if you know much about that, but that stuff, pretty nasty. She had never taken a painkiller in her life before. Right. But let's just say, Sean, that was the start of a very, very slippery slope. She unfortunately developed some addictions to it, and mixed in with just, you know, when women go through childbirth, there's that natural postpartum depression stuff that kind of happens. So let's just say it became a really bad scene for that 3 years, 2011 to 2014. And when people hear that, oh, your wife passed away, how did it happen? It's not an obviously easy story to tell, but the background I've just given you, it kind of leads me to what I have to say here. Yeah, it is just simply one of those things where she didn't want to be here anymore. And, you know, the difficulty of a spouse having to say something like that is really, really tough. But I share that with your audience simply because I believe in genuineness. And I know that a lot of people out there are going through their own challenges, or they may be living with someone, their spouse or a child or a parent that's going through challenges. And I share that so that I encourage people to do their best to help those folks, because it's the biggest regret of my life. I was unable to help her. So again, your question was like, what do you do in a scenario like that? So overnight, Sean, life changed, right? Where one night she was here and the next day she was gone. So how did life change? Yeah, the business I was running at the time, I had a mobile marketing agency. I had to shut it down. I simply couldn't deal with clients and anything. With good fortune, you know, I did have a real estate portfolio to fall back on. When I started that portfolio after my child was born, I never said, I'm going to need this portfolio in case my wife passes away. It was always, so we could have this or we could do that, right? So it was one of those things where I fell back on that portfolio, and it ended up, you know, doing well for me for like 4 years. But what do you go through? You go through a lot of changes in life. Overnight, yes, life changed. I had to become inwardly focused, where simple things like arranging play dates for my kids, what did they eat for dinner, how's the laundry all going to get done, all these like simple things which everyone does every day. I had never been really kind of doing that stuff, and I had to kind of start doing that. So if we fast forward now 4 years later, went through a lot of emotional kind of turmoil, right? A lot of folks will go through that when they suffer a loss, and you have to make some changes. You have to question yourself, what you're really doing here, like what's the purpose of it all. And at the end of the day, though, I have mentioned it, I had to get up and kind of dust myself off and realize that my kids need me. When she passed away, they were 5, 7, and 9. Now they're 9, 11, and 13. And let's just say that life is just totally about them. I still, to this day, drive them every day to school. I, pick them up. We spend a lot of time together. So the changes that happen, it would be different for everybody. But what do you do? I was a very inwardly focused guy. I didn't like go to therapists and counselors and all that stuff. It wasn't my thing. So I had to deal with a lot of it myself. My closest friends were obviously in on that, but you go through changes, and that major life event, everyone has them at various points. It changes you. So I don't know if I've done your question justice here, but that's really the backstory of it all. 100%. And you go through the turmoil, man, and you have to fight through, because I looked at my children and I simply said, well, that can't be all there is, right? Like, I couldn't turn the other way, start abusing drugs or alcohol, or just get in my own depression or anything like that. I simply had to stand up, and I had to say, like, okay, you got to move forward, man. Life goes on. So that's really the message, is that life goes on, and you have to move forward.
You know, I can't even imagine. Literally, you know, I've lost grandparents and, you know, things like that. But I mean, I can't even imagine. And then I look back at my life 10 years ago.
Yes.
And in December of 2008, I tried to take my life. And so I hear all these stories from the other parent or the other person or the other spouse or whoever, family member, whoever. And they're like, man, I don't know what I would do without them. And, you know, and then you hear this, you know, like me, like I would never, like now, today, I think I'm better prepared now, because there was a lot that I didn't deal with. A lot of therapy needed to happen in my life just because of where I was and what I did and did not deal with.
Yes.
So you know, you never really know a person until they're there. But I'm about as confident as you can get without going. I mean, I would say 100%. But again, I mean, I don't know. You know, there's always that one time. But it's like, I know for a fact that, like, that wouldn't even be an option for me. I've got great kids, the wife, the life that we're living. You know, it's just I'm aware. You know, I had wisdom teeth removed, you know, and the first thing that they did was prescribe me Vicodin, and I was like, you can have that back, or Oxycontin or whatever it was. Oxycontin was like, you can have that back. And then my wife gets like oxycodone, and we're like, no, you can have that back. I would rather just deal with the pain, you know. And then I had kidney stones, and they're like, oh, here's some Vicodin. I'm like, you can have that back. Like, I'm not, no. And they're like, well, you know, why? Unless I'm in like ridiculous amounts of pain.
Yes.
Just don't, you know?
It's the safest way. And she had never touched anything or been exposed to anything like that before that doctor's visit that day in 2011. So she didn't say no.
I abused alcohol. See, that was like, I abused alcohol, so I know exactly all about addiction and everything else.
Yes.
You know, so it's, I can't even imagine what that felt like.
Yeah.
And, well, you're here. So
I'm here, brother. And you know what? It's one of those things where you got to stand up, right? And I know, by the way, that a lot of your listeners are serving. So I actually wanted to say something, is that, look, I'm Canadian, all right? So Canada and the U.S. have been longtime friends. We have the longest unguarded border in the world. And let's just say that I'm very, very safe where I live, but I make zero mistakes knowing that a lot of it is because that Big Brother is right beside us, being America. Right. So even though I've never served in the military, I simply wanted to send a shout out to all of those serving who are listening to this show around the world. Thank you very, very much for your service. And just know that what you're doing, it's not only felt by Americans, it's felt by citizens from other countries, including Canada. So I wanted to say thank you, because I know it's not easy. And the topics we're talking about here today, I also know that some folks in the military go through some very difficult times, maybe after they've come back or while they're serving. And hopefully that there's something in this conversation between you and I that can also help them. So just wanted to mention that.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? We lost.
Well,
we lost our world, right? So where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, like, so that sabbatical, the first year obviously was exceptionally difficult. Everything that I looked at reminded me of her. Everywhere we went reminded me of her. So I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation with you in the first year, right? There would have been tears flowing everywhere, every day. Like I cried myself to sleep. It was really tough. So let's just say that after that first year, when I made the decision, okay, let me dust myself off, then I really started dealing with the whole executor part of her estate. And again, being trained as an accountant, an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, you would think that, okay, all right, I kind of know this stuff. This stuff I'm ready for. And I wasn't. So then what happened is Sean, I started just talking to other fathers. And brilliant guys, by the way, like guys who are really doing great things in the world. And I started asking them, like, tough questions, saying, hey, man, like, unfortunately, if something like this happened to you or your spouse, what would happen, like, financially? And unfortunately, the answers that came back were, we don't have the first clue. And I started talking to more fathers, same answers. And I'm like, oh, man, like, this is a real problem. I do know kind of the source of the problem, and it's the schooling system does not teach us much about financial literacy. We're kind of raised to be financially like illiterate, stupid. We don't know a lot of things. And then that really, you mentioned it, closer and closer people get to retirement, there's kind of that day where it's like, they're like, oh man, like I'm not ready. I can't retire yet. I don't have the money yet to retire, or I'm not prepared at all to retire. So that is where what you mentioned, the company Prepared Fathers, that's why it was born. It was born because I recognize that other fathers out there are not prepared, and that means that their families would be unprepared. And that's now just, we're going down a very, very sad road, right? Like if that's the situation. So I was like, okay, you know what? You got to get your message out there, and you got to start helping fathers. By the way, of course, the mothers, this is obviously very relevant to mothers, but when we talk about me, a single father, it's called Prepared Fathers, but this is relevant for any parent with children, obviously. So it's about getting prepared. It's about having a conversation, looking at your assets, looking at your paperwork, etc. So I just thought I'd mention that, you know what, it'll be ready in probably another couple of days, but I wanted your audience, if they wanted to get a little reference guide about how to be financially prepared, I'm going to set up a little page on my website, preparedfathers.com/Sean, SEAN. And they can go there and they can just get a nice, simple, what I call the CAP formula, CAP. And that's what it stands for, Conversations, Assets, and Paperwork. They can go there and they can download the guide. It's just a helpful guide to kind of give them an idea. All right, now this financial preparedness topic has come up. Now what do I do? It gives them things that they can look at, like, do they have a will? Do they have insurance? Things which lead them down the road to preparedness. That's what I want to make sure your audience can kind of take away from here, that that they can still start. They can still start down the road of being prepared. It's not always about how much money you have, by the way. It's about having the conversations with your loved ones about what happens if. It's about, building up some assets. That's great. But I think also very importantly, it's about having the right paperwork, because people maybe don't realize that if something happens to them and they don't have their will documented or their wishes documented, unfortunately, the government might take a much bigger share than what they would otherwise be entitled to if you did have things documented. So I want people, that's kind of where I want people to go down, is like, it's like you're aware of it now. Now there's no point of being, I call it either you're financially negligent or you're financially prepared. So I want people to be prepared. And that's really kind of where this whole thing came out of, and that's where it's leading to now. So I'm not sure what question you want to follow up with there, but that's the purpose of it all. And that's why I want the audience to take some action, because unfortunately, it's a really tough question. I would have to ask, like, what happens if something like that happens to you, right? Do we have military service people in the audience? Like, it's a very real it's a very real possibility, right? And it's an eye-opener to hear a conversation like this. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, by the way, for asking these questions and for providing this platform that reaches a lot of people, and hopefully we can make a difference in people's lives today.
Yeah, I'm just kind of racking my brain too. Like, man, am I prepared? I mean, your life insurance and everything else, but
yes,
in the long run, I think it goes more than just financial support. I think there's emotional support too. Do you have a good enough support network? You're talking about making play dates and who's doing laundry and what's going on with the kids for school. I mean, this is like typically the mom stuff. The mommy tasks and jobs where make the play dates and some dinner and make sure laundry and that type of stuff.
Sure.
The dads aren't like, come on, let's get a play date going. This is not kind of what we do.
That's right.
But here you are. You're having to do those things. So I'm kind of thinking, am I mentally prepared, emotionally prepared, spiritually prepared?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these avenues that you're talking about, Sean, that emotionally, let's just say no. I wasn't. I don't know if you ever are for something like that to happen, especially with someone so close to you. Spiritually, yeah. I mean, I'm not a religious dude, but I do believe in laws of the universe. And I believe that if you put good stuff out there, good stuff comes back to you. But again, I wasn't ready for something like this to happen. All right. And I don't think you're ever truly ready.
I think you're ever ready. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in a good, I had the good fortune of having some family support. Sure. My parents are still around. They live pretty close by. My wife's parents live literally 2 streets over. So I was able to get some help with my children. But at the end of the day, man, it's you. You're the head of the family, and now you're the only parent. That's where there's definitely some doubts that creep in, or fear that creeps in. What happens if something happens to me now? Right? What's going to happen with my kids, etc. So I don't know if you're ever truly prepared, but hopefully if you're living a good life and you have good friends around you, you have good, healthy relationships with your family, that hopefully those people would be there in case life does throw you one of these curveballs. But I don't know if you ever really start out and say, hey, am I prepared for it? I wasn't. Yeah. So,
yeah,
it is kind of what it is.
Yeah, 100%, man. So what is it that you do to at least get the word out and at least show how someone can be prepared? Because like we said, you're never really emotionally, spiritually, you're never really prepared.
That's right.
But how do you
That's why I focus. Sorry, go ahead.
Make a headway, right? How do you at least get somebody to the point where you feel comfortable, okay, you're a little more prepared?
Yeah, see, that's why Prepared Fathers is focused more on the whole financial preparedness. I think that I have some chops in that area with my background and with my experience. The whole emotional, spiritual support and all that stuff, I really wouldn't know kind of what to say outside of sharing my story and just tell people what I went through. I mentioned earlier, I didn't go to therapy or a counselor, but other folks may very well find that that's the best thing for them. It just wasn't for me, but that's a good thing if people kind of know themselves. So I encourage people to know themselves a little bit, to do a lot of, spend some time thinking of this stuff, searching this stuff. The one thing that's a big concern for me, Sean, is that I find that a lot of people now everyone's got their own phones, there's social media everywhere, internet everywhere. People spend a lot more time, unfortunately, on their entertainment rather than their education. And I don't mean formal education, university and stuff. I mean thinking of things and studying things that are going to be necessary, that are in this type of a realm of something that it may happen or it may not happen to you. But that's a big concern of mine. And I hope that people can just, when they hear this conversation, this conversation is meant to spark some awareness in them. And that is truly, truly the first step, right? There's fathers out there who still spend a lot of their time, like maybe, playing video games or hanging out with the boys, or not necessarily thinking about any of these things. This conversation is meant to spur them to say, hey, wait a second, maybe I should think about this stuff a little bit, and just try and figure out where I'm at. 78% right now, people don't have a will. And that really bothers me. Yeah, that's a huge number, man. And that really bothers me to say, like, you work hard for your assets to build up things your whole life. And if something unfortunate happens to you, the government's going to take a good share of it. And sometimes people just got to recognize we don't have the opportunity to prepare. Like, in the movies where the doctor is going to give a bad diagnosis and he tells the patient, it's time to get your affairs in order. Well, not everyone gets that opportunity, right? Like, sometimes you may not have that time. So you got to do it now. Like, do it now, and at least it should help you sleep a little better at night. And, like, at the end of the day, if stuff's going to happen, it's going to happen. But why let your family, or why have your family on top of the enormous emotional turmoil that they're going to be going through, why have them deal with financial turmoil too, right? Why not take 100%. That step? We were fathers for a reason, right? Like, we kind of took that oath. It's like, we're here for you, and we're going to love you. We're going to support you. This is one of the necessary steps. So I think that a prepared father is a better father, and I can kind of coach them financially how to get there. All the other stuff, you know what? It's all going to be based on them and their existing relationships and support network, etc. So hopefully that's given a little bit of justice to kind of your question. And by the way, thanks for asking these questions, man. Like, these are not easy questions to ask, but I think it's really super important for the audience to hear.
Yeah, I agree. So with that said, what are you working on in 2019 to further Prepared Father's mission?
Got it. It is to appear on as many of these podcasts as I can, because I love sitting on this end of the mic and being of service to an audience which I don't know. So that's the best way I found to reach folks. And then, of course, Prepared Fathers is now developing its own social media profiles, its own blog. I have my own podcast, which is just called A Minute with Jay. So it's not an interview style one. It's literally 1 minute episodes, which I just launched the first 10 episodes last week. So it's one of those things where I'm reaching out there and trying to step out into the world. I'll be doing some speaking engagements this year, which is meant to reach people as well. So I just want to do more of that. That's how I find that people resonate with me. I get a lot of emails after I do these types of shows where people are like, wow, Jay, thank you for sharing. And then they'll share their experience with me. And Sean, there's so many people out there, man, who are just, depression, addictions. It's one of those things that society kind of shames people. And I want that to be broken too. Like I have zero expertise in this outside of my own experience. But the one thing I did realize is that my wife was going through a lot of pain, and I didn't do my duty as a husband to get her the necessary help. Folks who are in that position, if they don't want to be helped, it's really tough. Like, I would say, let's go see somebody. It was never, we're going to see somebody right now. Grab her by the hand and take her. It was, do you want to go see someone? What should I do to help you? I was asking questions, and the answers coming back were not going to be mindful and of service to her, yet I didn't do anything about it. So it was, again, biggest regret of my life. But if I can share this message through as many platforms as possible, then it's my small way of kind of just saying I'm sorry, to her. And I have to help other people. And if I can help other people, then, then her life's not in vain. And at the end of the day, my children, I have to be able to look them in the eye and say, look, this is what your papa did, and now this is what he's doing. to try and make up for it. And they're growing up in that environment. I teach them about financial preparedness. I teach them about business and skills and real estate and all those things at a young age. Because again, we don't know our own mortality, Sean. Like, life promises us nothing. And people sometimes look at me and say, wow, you're getting your kids involved at a really young age. I'm like, yeah, I am getting them involved at a young age. They need to know this stuff because we live in a first world country, and I tell everyone that right underneath oxygen, you need money. Like, you just need it. And I find that people sometimes have a belief system about money where they don't like talking about it with their family, or they think it's evil or whatever. I really encourage people to just say, let's put that aside and just recognize that even if you feel that way, your family still is going to need stuff in case something happens to you. So, let's get that belief system kind of out of the way, and let's really focus here on what's important. And it's them, it's your children, it's your spouse, it's your family that is ultimately, at the end of the day, the most important thing. So that's what I want to do. I just want to keep getting this message out there, man. And again, thank you for having me on for something like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely welcome. So what is it, I should say, how important is it for you to get this message out? What would it mean for you to get this message out to as many people as you can?
At the end of the day, Sean, I think this is what's going to be my legacy. So the bigger the legacy, right now the mission is to help 1 million fathers become financially prepared. And that number can grow to 10 million or 100 million. But, in my mind, I think let's start with that first million. Because let's say every family has 4 members. So if I'm helping 1 million fathers look after their family, well, there's now 4 million people that have helped. And if the fathers can share it with their family members, like other adult siblings, other, their brother, their fathers, then that multiply effect can really, really happen. So what would it mean to me? Oh my goodness, man. Like, at the end of the day, this is the first business I've ever started where I didn't think of the money. Like, when I was younger and my kids were younger, it was always, okay, I'm doing a business. Well, how can I make money in this business, etc. This started more as just that type of thing where it's like, I need to get the word out. And that's why I went to New Media Summit. When I went to New Media Summit, I think we met there in September, I didn't really have much of anything started. I simply went there to say, I think I have a story here, which I think a lot of people are going to resonate with, and it's going to be heartfelt. And I'm just going to come at you with kind of everything from inside here to say, this is what happened to me. And genuinely, I know what happens to a lot of other people out there, but I want to stand up. I want to stand up and I want to say, this is what people need to do. And that mission is getting carried out. So it means the world to me that that's the road that I'm going down.
I love it. I love it. So this is the moment where we shoot a shameless plug. You can plug friends, quotes, websites, Facebook, whatever it is that you want the audience to know and to do. This is it. Shameless plug moment. Go.
Awesome. All right. Well, we mentioned it before, but I'd like everyone to go to preparedfathers.com/Sean, SEAN. On that page, you will see the CAP formula, just kind of the little, what we call an opt-in box. Just put your first name and email address there and hit the download now button. And basically, it'll be sent to your email immediately. I want people to take a look at that CAP formula. Again, CAP stands for conversations, assets, and paperwork. It kind of breaks down those 3 areas about, how do you go about attacking each of the 3, and spend some time, read through it, and reach out with any questions. We have a Facebook group. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/preparedfathers. And at the end of the day, let's say you just want to email me. You can email me at j@preparedfathers.com. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. We offer coaching programs and stuff like that for fathers at different stages of their journey. Brand new fathers, first-time fathers, whereas, let's say, sandwich generation fathers. I'm in that one where I have some kids now who are not quite toddlers, And I also have elder parents who, I help and I look after. So that sandwich generation, that's a big challenge, man. There's a lot of fathers in that. And there's also a third group, which I'm not part of yet, but it's grandfathers. That's much more about kind of legacy. How do you, kind of cement your legacy? How do you plan on an inheritance that you're going to be giving to your adult kids? Some of the things to think about and ponder. So those are the three groups of fathers which I help. I offer coaching programs for all of them at one stage or another. And that's where, thanks for letting me talk about that. But just start at preparedfathers.com/Sean. And you can start with that CAP formula. That's what would make me happy. That would be great.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to end the show with a nugget of knowledge that will motivate, transcend, and inspire someone to take action today.
Great. It's a quote, which some people find controversial, but here it goes. It basically says, how hard you work will have very little to do with how well you retire. And let me explain that. We work hard, right? And the goal is we obviously want to make more money than what we spend. And then we take that excess money, we build up a little emergency fund first. And then for extra money on top of that, we are supposed to invest it. Where you put that money, Sean, where you make those investments and how those investments ultimately grow over the time that you're investing that money, let's say 30, 40, 50 years, that is what will determine how well you retire, not how hard you work. I know a lot of people who work very, very hard, but if they don't have some of the good money habits, or let's just say they work really hard, but they just don't make tons of money or they don't take care of it really well, then that's going to be a big challenge for them. So I will encourage people, what we said earlier, is not spend as much time on their entertainment. The entertainment will always be there. Netflix, YouTube, you can always go there. Whereas the time to start preparing, if you haven't, is today. It's right now. And I think that our conversation hopefully will spur some folks. Let's say the service people that are listening to this, especially the ones who have families, please, you are putting your life on the line out there for service and protection of your country. And again, I thank you for that. But at the end of the day, you also have to look after the folks back home. So if people can get spurred by that, then I think we've done our job here today, Sean.
I agree. I love it. Jay, I really want to thank you for sharing. I know it's not easy, and you've been through quite a bit. So I just want to say thank you for what you do, for who you are, and for sure this episode is going to change lives.
That's what that would make me the happiest. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my friend. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest who is impacting the world around him, using the tragedy that he faced to then become elevating the lives and everybody, enriching and empowering and preparing the fathers. You have to connect with them. Go to www.preparedfathers.com. Connect with him. Look into what he's doing. Join the movement, because you never know. You just never know. Mm-hmm. So as I close, I want you to subscribe, rate, and review Life Transformation Radio so that we know how we're doing, and so other people who might be in a similar situation as Jay can discover and find shows like this. As I close, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.
Skydiving. This is amazing.
Yeah, but you know what else is amazing? An iPhone 6S for just 49 bucks at Metro.
Really?
Imagine streaming all the way down with that amazing camera. I'm switching.
That's smart.
You know what else is smart? Parachutes.
Switch to Metro and get an amazing iPhone 6S for only 49 bucks. Metro by T-Mobile. Phone offer requires port in of number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Skydiving. This is amazing.
Yeah, but you know what else is amazing? An iPhone 6S for just 49 bucks at Metro.
Really?
Imagine streaming all the way down with that amazing camera. I'm switching.
That's smart.
You know what else is smart? Parachutes.
Switch to Metro and get an amazing iPhone 6S for only 49 bucks. Metro by T-Mobile. Phone offer requires port in of number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.